Good afternoon, everybody. This is a big, big day. Can the Phillies survive Game 4? Ranger Suarez versus Jose Quintana. This is it, man. This is do or die. Fightings have to win. You win, you force the Game 5 Friday night, Philadelphia with Wheeler on the mound. It's all about today. It's all about whether or not the Phillies can survive this division series. Welcome. This is, of course, the Playoff Baseball Show. It's the Red October Show powered by Ace Hardware Home Services. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. That's right. Ace is the helpful place, and they bring it right to your home. They got the people to do all the jobs you need around the house, right? When it comes to heating and air conditioning, I mean, you name it, you got a job, and the great people at Ace can handle it. All right, as we get ready for tonight, it's a tense day in Philadelphia, and I'm sure it'll be even more tense in the dugout, the visitors' dugout at Citi Field at 5:08 p.m. And that's part of the issues that's going on with the Phillies right now is, and you could see it, their at-bats, they look tight, right? And you give Manaea all the credit in Game 3 last night. I mean, he pitched really well in the slot. We talked about his arm slot ad nauseum, and, he had to give him credit. He threw the big breaking ball, the big change up to Bryce. All right, first and second, and that was the pivotal point in the game. Sixth inning, nobody out, Bryce is up, and he starts him with that changeup. And the changeup is so difficult because it's coming from the same slot as the fastball. And, Bryce is amped up. He's dying to do something. He's trying to put the whole team on his back. So he takes the big hack, and then he gets overmatched by the two sweepers. And Castellanos line out double play, and that's the inning. And that's been a big piece of it. I was talking to David Segui, who is our analyst, and David's quote, they look super tight. Super tight was David's quote. And we talked about it in the morning. They just do. They look like they're trying so hard. And baseball, man, baseball's a game where you got to be loose. You got to be free. When you grip that bat too tight, it does a lot of bad stuff, right? Like your bat path gets messed up. You don't have enough exit velocity on your swings, so you're slowing that down. On your swing, you got to be loose, and that's the one issue. The other thing that David said that's paramount, and I completely agree. I think it's a huge deal, and that is you got to jump on Quintana early, right? This team needs to play with a lead. Throughout the entire first 3 games of this series, it's been white-knuckle baseball, right? I know the shadows in Games 1 and Game 2, they had a couple big hits, but, last night, that wasn't the problem. That wasn't the issue. Last night, again, it was gripping that bat too tight. They have to loosen up. You got to go out and you got to play with a little bit of comfort. They got to find that. They have to summon that. That's going to be the key. And you can get a lead. I think that will get them at ease. That'll make them feel a lot better if they can get a run or two early, first inning, second inning, off of Quintana. Now, the scouting report on Quintana, and David Segui said this, is that he's a Johan Santana clone. If you remember, Johan Santana, Twins, Mets, he was a guy that likes to kind of command the zone, right? He's going to be down in the zone on you. He's a pitcher. He uses his changeup a lot. His advice for right-handed hitters, to really crowd the plate and hit off the changeup, because his changeup is everything. He's a finesse guy. He comes from you from the left side. He's finesse. So you're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to be in the zone. And I know right now, the way the Phillies are, it's going to be an issue, right? Like, they're going to have to come in. Each at bat has to be a grinded out at bat. You got to have a patient approach against Quintana. And again, those right-handers have to get in on them, right? You have to cover the plate and hit off that changeup. When you go inside the numbers against Quintana lifetime, some of it's not good. Bryce, 4 for 21, 190 with a homer and 4 ribbies off Quintana. Turner, 6 for 24. Schwarber, 7 for 24 with a homer and 4 ribbies. Castellanos has hit him well. He's hit him 13 for 53 against Quintana. Ironically, the Philly with the best lifetime numbers against Quintana, Rojas. I kid you not. Rojas, 5 for 9 against him. And that shows you, right-handed bat, he'll be in on the plate, grinds it out, and that's going to be a big part of the Phillies. Their approach and to set the tone is going to be big. Flip side, all right, Ranger. Now, we know that when Ranger's right, Ranger Suarez can be dominant. We'll see how the layoff. We know that he was a couple ticks down in his velocity. He needs to get that back up there. And then the good thing about him is he is an unflappable guy, right? The one thing about when you think about Ranger is the moment. He can tackle the moment. So the moment is a big deal, right? So if he can handle that piece of it, I'll tell you one thing. He has handled Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo hitting 120 off a Ranger, 3 for 25. And I know Pete Alonso has been the big story, this series, the 2 big home runs. He's only 2 for 17 against Ranger. So Rangers handled Alonso and Nimmo, the 2 big bats. He's pitched very well against the Mets. Viento's 3 for 15. He does have a home run lifetime. Lindor, 5 for 16. Ironically, the one Met who has hit him well is Iglesias, who's 6 for 8 lifetime. So it's kind of similar where Iglesias 6 for 8, Rojas 5 for 9 against both these starters. So that's going to be a big deal. Now, the Phillies, again, they're going to need to make adjustments at the plate. You're going to know early. We'll know early in this matchup how the Phillies are. I think it's going to be key. Now, the last time we saw Quintana, he was pitching really well. He threw a gem against Milwaukee. We've seen some regression during the playoffs, right? A starter has a really great outing, and then the next time he's a little hittable. And we saw that with Michael King from the Padres. Michael King was fantastic against the Braves, and then last night got hit, almost blew a 6-1 lead for the Padres. The Dodgers came back on and hit a grand slam, and they chased him fairly early. He only had 3 strikeouts after mowing down 13 in the start before against Atlanta. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Phillies can get to Quintana early. That should do them a lot. Man, again, you just got to win one game. You just got to win today. You win today, and hey, you take your chances with Game 5 with Wheeler on the mound back at home, Citizens Bank Park Friday night. All right, let's find out about the mood of this team, because I know the clubhouse feel. Like, we saw it outwardly with Bohm and his struggles, but let's find out the vibe of this club up at Citi Field in New York right now. Let's visit with the great Todd Zalecki. MLB.com does such a great job covering the Phillies. I'm putting on the mojo today. They're gonna hit Quintana.
I can see that happening. It's funny. I've seen this. I mean, we've seen it so many times in all sports, not just baseball, but a team looks dead in the water and then they totally flip the script and they change the narrative, and maybe the Phillies win at night in and then they go in and win game 5, and it's like, oh my gosh, remember when after game 3 everybody thought they were cooked? So they have the ability to do that. Now they got to go out and do it. They haven't done it yet. They've been, what we've been seeing, I feel like, is a lot of what we've seen the last few months, which is just a really kind of plodding offense, a lot of bad at bats, inability to string together hits, and that's why they are where they are. But I will say, post game,
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. What was it like in that room?
it wasn't. I feel like it was, and I don't want to. I'm going to say upbeat, not upbeat, but I feel like after Game 6 last year of the NLCS, it was a little bit of a darker vibe, a little bit of a darker feel. Like they said, of course, they all said the right things, which is, we can win this game. We got our guys on the mound, and we're confident. We got home field and all that. I feel like yesterday there was a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more optimistic. Saw a couple smiles. Take this for what it's worth. I'm not saying he's going to pitch well tonight. I am not saying that, but when Ranger Suarez was packing up and leaving the clubhouse, he had a little bit of a smirk on his face, like the weight of the world. He was not feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. So I think one thing you can expect out of Ranger tonight is that he's not going to be nervous. Not saying he's going to pitch well. He hasn't pitched well since mid-June, but but I don't think the moment is going to be too big for him. I don't think he's going to shrivel up on that mound tonight at Citi Field.
Let's talk about Ranger while we're on the subject, and we'll get back to the offense. What do you think the issues? Obviously, he lost a couple ticks on his velocity, which we talked about his lower half not being in sync, kind of stiff. It was not being in sync. He's throwing better bullpens? I mean, what's the word?
Yeah, so I just feel like he never got back into shape. He finally acknowledged a couple weeks ago that he never got his legs under him because of his back, and he lost something there. So they played this inter-squad game on Wednesday at Citizens Bank Park. We didn't get to watch it, but supposedly Ranger looked pretty good for 2 innings. I don't know what that means. Rob Thompson said his command looked like it was better. It looked like he had a little bit more velocity. Not that he's a velocity guy, but he said he could locate his stuff better. His off-speed stuff was better. So maybe he turned a corner. Maybe he made a mechanical adjustment. And really, that's kind of all you can hope for right now. Best case scenario for Ranger tonight, I don't know what you do. I guess maybe like the best case scenario is that he goes 5 innings. But I feel like if they can just get him through the lineup one time unscathed, and maybe you can push him a little bit beyond that would be great. But certainly they need something much better than they've gotten since he came back from the injury list. He just has not been very good.
No, I know. I mean, again, let's get back to the lineup because, man, they feel like they're trying to win the World Series in the division series. Like, it feels like the first inning, they hit the ball hard. Like, they got 3 good at bats against Manaea. And I'll give Manaea credit because I do think that arm slot's real. That means something. And, God bless him. I mean, the change up to Bryce was nasty, right? It was exactly where you need to be. Comes from the same slot, right? He thinks it's a fastball the way it looks. So I get it. He sped up his bat. But the rest of the at-bats, other than Castellanos, Bryce, were not good. They were very tight. It feels like if they're not hitting early, they get tight.
I agree. I feel like they've been tight. I feel like they are thinking they know what's at stake. They know they have a ton of very expensive players in their early 30s. They know that the window, maybe not for the Phillies, is closing. They can extend it longer, but for this core of players, it's limited. And I feel like there is some press there. I feel like and it's showed in some of these at bats. I was wondering after that first inning, they hit all 3 balls were hit like 106 or harder. So they smoked Manaea in the first inning. All of them were outs, and I know anytime I tweet about like exit video, people are like, oh, what? Give me 3 60-mile-an-hour bloop singles. I get it. Yes, of course. But you hit 3 straight balls 106 miles an hour. You go, okay. if you keep doing that, those balls are going to go over the wall, or they're going to go off the wall, or they're going to go into the gap, and they're going to be base hits. So I was very curious to see kind of how that, if that continued, and it didn't continue. So that I think there's a lot of guys pressing right now. The bottom of the lineup is kind of non-existent. You know things aren't going good, and when after the game, and you see on Twitter people saying, maybe they should start Weston Wilson in left field over Austin Hayes. If that's the conversation, that Weston Wilson can maybe save your offense, you're not in a good spot.
How much is there a lot of talk up there about the whole format? Like, you look at these division winners, like the Dodgers are about to get eliminated in San Diego, right? The numbers they are astounding. Since they went to a 3-game series in the wild card, these division winners who sit just get beat, right? The Phillies beat the Braves the last 2 years. We've seen it.
Yeah, I think coming in certainly the last 2 years, I think the division winners were 3-5 in the division series. So it's a small sample. It's a small sample size, and and some of those teams have talked about the layoff and how it's affected them, and maybe that the team that wins the wild card series is playing, has a little bit more momentum on their side and all of that, and that's true. But I also think that some of those division teams. Look at the Phillies this year, and I think you can look up and down the lineup and see a lot of holes. I think you look at the Dodgers and you see some holes as well, and the Padres, even coming into the playoffs, we're like, that might be the best team in the National League right now, the Padres.
Oh, yeah.
And look at the Mets. They had the second best record in baseball since they got back from London. Yeah. So I feel like it has more to do with that than maybe the format. But there's still no excuses. These didn't affect the Astros in 2022. They went on and won the World Series after that.
No, it's a great point, fair point. And it's funny, bring up the Padres. Look what Outage does for them, right? Like all of a sudden, the lineup is fixed. Now Jackson Merrill has a lot to do with it too, but like their lineup is so much different with that guy leading off.
Totally. And he's got a great swing. He puts the ball in play. He's just trying to make contact. He gives you good at-bats. In a lot of ways, I felt like Bryson Stott should be that guy. He doesn't overswing. He's got a good two-strike approach. He gets into his two-strike, stance there and tries to – but he just has not had a great year. I feel like if Bryson Stott was doing what he was supposed to do, really kind of what he was doing through the end of August last season, he was hitting or mid-August last season, he was hitting 300. If you have that version of Bryson Stott, the lineup looks better. If you have the first half version of Alec Boehm, this lineup looks better. But neither of those guys have really produced lately. But yeah, I mean, a guy like Outage, man, he would be – because you just know every day you're going to get great at-bats from him. Yeah. And maybe he can string together a couple base hits.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. How amazing would that be?
How was Bryce after?
Bryce, I've seen him more frustrated. I think he knows what's at stake. I think he was very frustrated with his at-bats yesterday, particularly that one in the 6th inning. You mentioned the changeup there from Manaea to start it, but then he chased 2 pitches off the plate. It was just like, oh my gosh. Manaea had thrown 8 out of 9 pitches for balls leading into that Harper at bat, walking Schwarber and Turner. And you're sitting there going, this is literally the Bryce Harper moment. That's what I was thinking. That is the Bryce Harper moment. Here it comes. And boom, boom, boom. 1, 2, 3, strike 3. Right.
My brother, you're the best, man. I'll be following you all day today, as always. So thanks, pal.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Man, let's see what happens, man. It's going to be big. Don't forget, Red October is powered by Ace Hardware Home Services. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next home project. Ace is the helpful place. They come right to your house. They have the people that can do the job right. So don't worry about the DIY stuff. I know I can't. I go to Ace. That's my helpful place. All right. So We'll see. Put a bow on this thing. It's all about approach. All about it. They got to be patient against Quintana. Quintana likes to pitch. It's about the bats. We know it. Turner needs to show up, right? You got to start this thing early. That's going to be paramount to jump on Quintana and be patient at the plate. See some pitches. You got to work counts. You got to make sure you get the right pitch to hit and don't get yourself out. He's going to want to try to get yourself out, all right? You got to ward against that. That's going to be a big deal. And, you know, as much as we know the pressures and the expectation for all of us, and they know it better than anybody, they're going to have to play loose. It's the only way. It's the only path back to Zach Wheeler and Game 5. It's a great day of baseball today, right? Guardians and Tigers. That's a great series. And, of course, Yankees and Royals. Haka Lugo. Seth Lugo on the mound for Kansas City. Clark Schmidt for the Yankees. Clark Schmidt's been one of their best starters. Kansas City at home, it's going to be a great atmosphere. I think the Royals are live. It's so interesting because all of these teams that played in the wild card appear to be live. So we'll see how it plays out. And of course, in the other National League Series, Dylan Cease for the Padres can close it out against the Dodgers, who are going to be in the bullpen game. Now, they got big arms to throw in the bullpen game, but this is it. That atmosphere in San Diego is ridiculous. I think they close it out. We'll see. It's going to be a big day. Hopefully, we'll be talking tomorrow about Zach Wheeler back on the rubber in a Game 5 for the Fightins. Thanks to our friends at Ace Hardware. Red October. Go Fightins.
We all silly like the mayor.